Welcome to Sense of Style. I'm Stuart. If you are a confident and successful person, I think the best way to live, and I've learned this over time, is to be quiet about it. Because if you're successful and you're bold and you're boisterous, you're just going to make yourself a target. Life will certainly be easier if you're successful and you're quiet. We all have egos. We're all very competitive. That's why so many business people really try and stay out of the news. Not everybody is Elon Musk. And I think when it comes to fragrances, it's the same thing. Again, if you're very bold and very confident and outgoing, wearing something like red tobacco is not going to go over as well as if you wear something more subtle, because people already know you're confident. Anyway, I have 8 beautiful, quiet, confident fragrances for you guys today. Let's get to it. Fragrance number 1 is Guerlain L'Homme Ideal Extreme. Now, this is not an extreme fragrance. In fact, the Ideal line, it's not an extreme line in any way. I think a better way to determine what kind of fragrance, what style of fragrance you're going to get is to look at the notes. If you see iris, you're going to get something sophisticated. If you see leather, you're going to get something usually mature. But if you see something dark or sweet, something like maybe tobacco, which is here, you're going to get an evening, date night, more sensual scent. This also has leather as well, so it is more matured. It's definitely more sensual, and that is, in fact, I've confirmed what they were going for here. They wanted an evening version for the Ideal line. Now, the odd thing about this one is there's no amber, vanilla, or tonka here, so there's no actual sweet notes, and yet it's quite a sweet fragrance. They get that by using plum. Now, plum is normally used in female fragrances. It's used occasionally for men, but because there are no sweet notes, plum is the sweetest of the fruity notes. There's a lot of plum here. It's also mixed with the almond, which is the key component in the Ideal line. And then you're going to get some cinnamon and pink pepper. So this is a sensual date night scent, and that's backed up by the type of performance you're going to get. This is not a heavy projector. This one more smolders. This is like 8 to 10 hours. It's actually quite strong, long lasting on skin. But yeah, you're not going to get the heavy projection. It's more of a sensual, mature date night fragrance, and it is quiet, which is what we're going for. Fragrance number 2 comes from a house that is known for being really, really loud and bold. Initio Parfums. They make Oud for Greatness. They also make Side Effect. Those are really long-lasting and very, very strong fragrances. This is Mystic Experience, and it's a very different Initio Parfums experience for a couple different reasons. The first one is, this one's really quiet. The projection is 2 feet at the most, but it's really long-lasting. It's about 10 hours, so the performance is strange here, but it's a much quieter scent. The second one is Initio Parfums rarely announce the perfumer, but they got a star perfumer for this. Hamid Maradi Kashani did Leighton, he did Altair, he did a lot of top fragrances from Goldfield and Banks, so they announced him as being the perfumer here, and I gotta admit it really is nice. It's an amber woody scent with a lot of amber and a lot of sandalwood. But it's not linear. It changes throughout. The other accent notes you pick up as it goes along. You start off with a dry coffee note. You get that for about the first hour, hour and a half. That subsides, and then you start to pick up the musks later on. And this is very rare for me, but in the deep dry down, it gets even more different. I start to notice the oak moss. So a very full experience that I get with this fragrance, but I love the subtlety of the projection. Fragrance number 3 is responsible for completely rebooting a fragrance line. That's a rare thing to do. This is Givenchy Gentleman EDP. The 2017 Eau de Toilette was the first one out at the reboot. That didn't go over so well. I tried that actually today for the first time. It's a fruity iris. I really liked it. But no, a year later, this came out in 2018. This one really took off. Natalie Laurent and Olivier Cresp, Givenchy were not messing around. They went for some of the best perfumers out there. They put this together, and I think what they did was they wanted to give something to everybody. So this has iris, so it's got a sophisticated feel. It also has a vanilla note, which I think was really important given that it was 2018. Vanilla was starting to work really well, and so this is a really good, sophisticated scent for young guys. But then, it kept getting more and more. You're also going to get cloves, so there's a lot of spices here. And then even resins. There's Tolu Balsam, and I believe the other resin is myrrh. So you're going to get a resinous component, an iris component, a vanilla component, and a spicy component balanced really nicely with very solid performance. Yeah, this one was responsible for bringing back a line like 1974 Givenchy Gentleman was so different to this particular Gentleman line. And I think partially responsible, this one, was just for the continuation of the Reserve Prive within the line and then the Gentleman Society line. I think this one was really important for Givenchy. Fragrance number 4 is a rare occurrence for me. Only 3 times since I've started collecting have I purchased a decant of a niche fragrance and then turned around and bought a bottle. I did it, though, with Ambre Sultan by Serge Lutens. And I think one of the reasons I did, as you mature, instead of wearing like a lot of vanilla and tonka, you can still be modern and wear amber. So it's sweet, but it's not quite as sweet as the other 2 notes. So I have been getting into different houses like Hermes and also using a lot more amber. And this really is a very strong amber fragrance. There's 4 different amber notes. There's a resins note, there's amber, there's benzoin, and there's myrrh. So it's just a ton of amber. But at the time, Serge Lutens, amber was really trendy when this came out initially, but he wanted to go against type. So he added, it's really strange, it's like an amber fragrance with bite. He added oregano, myrtle, and angelica. And so this has a real herbal component that goes along with it. The fragrance, oddly enough, was inspired by a piece of amber that Serge Lutens, who lives in Marrakesh, Morocco, he was at a souk, which is a marketplace in Morocco, a lot of spices. He was there, he took a piece of amber, he put it away in his closet for about 10 years, picked it up one day and noticed the confluence of the amber with the spiciness and the smells of the marketplace. Now, this one is, I'm going to say, stronger than a lot of the other fragrances. This one does project not a ton, but this one, I really notice this on my skin when I put it on. This is not a weak fragrance, which in my experience with Serge Lutens, 2 out of the 3 that I have are pretty strong. Yeah, this one is super strong, but it is amber. You know, it's not the kind of fragrance that's going to offend anyone, and so it's not vanilla, so it counts. If you live in North America, there's a good chance you'll have run into the Dilbert cartoons that were really popular in the workplace back in the day in the early 2000s. They were everywhere. And what he used to do, Scott Adams was a cartoonist, he used to portray people in marketing because they were always deceptive. He would always portray them with devil horns and pitchforks, you know, basically saying they were satanic. And in the case of Narcisco Rodriguez's marketing department, so I'm going to be talking about Bleu Noir Parfum here, in the case of those guys, I think it fits because the original Bleu Noir fragrance, not this one came out a couple years later. The original Bleu Noir fragrance came out in 2015. So did Dior Sauvage. That was peak blue fragrance. Everybody was releasing blue fragrances at the time. So what do Narcisco Rodriguez do? They call their fragrance line Bleu Noir. And this has a light blue or a dark blue bottle. None of the fragrances have anything to do with blue fragrances, and yet they market it that way. So don't be perceived. Fortunately, this is a really nice fragrance, and it's a really nice line. They operate with musks and woods, which has nothing to do with blue. But this one, yeah, this one is good. Now, one thing they did get right here was this is a parfum concentration, and it does behave like a parfum. It's got leather and suede, which is normal, right? You're going to get a more mature feel for a parfum. It also has iris, a sophisticated element, which is another thing. Now, it has a little bit of tonka, it has some cardamom, but it all blends together really nicely, creating a really, really underrated iris fragrance, quite frankly. And I think because of the leather and the suede, you know, if you find that Dior Homme Intense or Prada L'Homme Iris is too feminine for you, I do think anytime you stick leather with iris, it does definitely come, to me anyway, off more masculine. Performance is solid, but it's not a very heavy projecting parfum, which is one of the reasons why it's perfect for this list. It's a really good all-around iris. Fragrance number 6 is Pour un Homme de Caron. And Caron is actually a niche house, but the fragrances, at least should be, reasonably expensive. You shouldn't pay more than $50 for 100 milliliters here. People are doing that because sometimes this is not available. It will be. It goes all the way back to $34, so be patient if you can't find it. But very, very nice lavender fragrance predominantly. There are a ton of notes here. There's really only 3 that count. You're going to get lavender, you're going to get vanilla and musk. But the vanilla and the musk work together to give it a soapy feel. This smells more like soap, like a bar soap to me than anything I've ever tried. It smells like a high quality lavender soap. That's really what you're getting, because the musk and the vanilla, like I've said this many times about this fragrance, it smooths out the sharp edges. Lavender can be really sharp. If you look at the opening of something like Sauvage Elixir, there's a sharp feel. You get lavender in the open there. And so the lavender here is smoothed out. It does have a soapy feel, and it's used in aromatherapy. Apparently, I read that, but it's been around for so long, like 1934, right? That's a long time, but performance is good. It is a little bit synthetic, but just remember, that's why you don't want to pay more than like $50 for it, because it is fundamentally an inexpensive fragrance. Fragrance number 7, this is Lalique pour Homme, and I really love the bottle. I really like the scent. It's similar to Bois de Portugal. It's definitely a fairly quiet scent. You're talking about 4 to 5 hours in terms of longevity, and I guess it's a woody scent, right? There's a lot of cedar in here, so the projection is somewhat moderate. It's got a few different facets to it. So it's got that heavy cedar, which I gotta be honest, when I first tried this, all I really seemed to notice was the sharp woods, right? It felt to me like a much sharper woody scent than I would normally get. And then I over the years and just dealing with people, everyone's like, well, it's a barbershop scent. So I started to pick up the lavender and the oak moss over time. And so, yeah, it seems I don't focus so much on the woods anymore. It's something my brain does that I'm not really aware of. I just get more of a barbershop feel now. But in both cases, it's very pleasant. The one thing that is consistent here, and very rare for an inexpensive fragrance, is picking up just a little hint of iris. It comes in and comes out kind of thing. It's not a heavy iris note, but it is definitely there. Yeah, it's just a good all-round classy scent. Reasonable price. Yeah, it's a Lalique, right? Finally, we have Faberge Brut, and this is not a Brut scent. As I've said in the past, Brut means very dry in French. And so this is a dry barbershop scent, basically. But the key element here is anise, which is a spice that has a licoricey feel. And if you ever look at Fragrantica's Accords, anytime they're talking about anise, they give it a soft, spicy designation. So it is soft, spicy. It's not a heavy, hard, warm spicy. It's not a fresh spicy. It's very, very pleasant. Not what I was expecting at all. The projection here, mine's an eau de cologne, so the projection here is very, very moderate, but everything that's available now has been toned down in terms of projection. Just like really, really pleasant fragrance that I've actually worn a fair chunk of this. Like for me, that's a big dent for an old school fragrance. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I noticed that I use the word quiet a lot in my titles, which is odd because I am not a quiet person. If you were to meet me, I'm not, I just talk and talk and talk. That's one of the reasons I do this. So, but yeah, I think when it comes to style, my style is very, very quiet, very laid back. And I think the more successful you are, and look, as I said before, so many business people that are successful, they want to stay out of the news. They don't want to make noise. They don't want to bring attention to themselves. You're loud, you're going to bring trouble. So yeah, success and being quiet really works. Thanks for watching.